Let's now see if we can reconnect with a human rights lawyer and activist, Inibehe Effiong. Inibehe, thank you for joining us. Let's just confirm your audio once again.
I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. All right. Yesterday, we saw some level of disrespect by the Nigerian police to innocent protesters. Would you say it's a reflection of what has continued in the past 4 years, despite the brutality that was seen and the pledges of reform since the end SARS protest?
Well, so far, it is obvious to Nigerians that this government has no interest whatsoever in reforming the police. Nigerians are still being killed on a daily basis. The injustice that citizens complained about, the extrajudicial killing, the extortion, and the wanton abuse of the police by politicians and even non-state actors, none of that has changed in any material respect. Rather, what we have seen, in some sense, it seems the situation has even gotten worse. So the government itself has not demonstrated capacity or the honesty or integrity to reform the police. If you look at the demands of the protesters in 2020, including the one for the funding of the police, an increase in the salary of police officers, nothing drastic or fundamental has been done in that regard. The protesters had also demanded that the members of the disbanded Special Anti-Robbery Squad should be subjected to psychiatric tests before they are allowed to be regrouped or to be admitted into other departments of the police. That was also not done. Of course, the government set up judicial commissions of inquiry across the states. That was done by governors of various states. But guess what? The reports of those panels of inquiry have not been implemented, except for Lagos, where a marginal aspect of the reports relating to payment of compensation was paid to some persons. For the most of the other states of the Federation, nothing was done. So all this goes to show that the government is not serious. The government has no interest in reforming the police. And the reason for that is simple, because the politicians need the police to rig elections. They need the police to harass their opponents. They need the police to remain the way it is, for them to continue to use it as an instrument of oppression. That is my explanation on why the Nigeria police has not been reformed. I believe it is intentional. I believe it is deliberate. I believe that it is calculated to continue to keep Nigerians subjugated. The relationship between the police and Nigerians have not improved. Till date, Nigerians still treat the police with suspicion, while the police continue to treat Nigerians with hatred. This cannot continue. This cannot continue to be the case. So therefore, something has to be done to ensure that the situation changes. But I'm not very optimistic that something is going to change anytime soon.
I mean, it's almost like you're saying two different things. Something has to be done and you're not optimistic. What would be the right scenario for optimism that something can be done? Because my colleague in that report mentioned that some of the victims, 4 years on, are still afraid to speak, worried for their safety. But there were key recommendations from all the panels that were put together and from lawyers like yourself. So what are the scenarios that will engender change, that will make you a little more optimistic that the police can change?
No, the police is not going to change anytime soon. I think that is the reality we all have to accept. Expecting the police to change is just being, I don't want to call it delusional, but the reality is...
No. What I'm asking is, what can be the reforms that can happen, if in an ideal scenario? Because we can't continue to say nothing can happen. We have to move forward as a society.
Well, the laws are there. The laws have been put in place. We have the Police Act of 2020. We have the Anti-Torture Act of 2017. We have the Administration of Criminal Justice Act of 2015. We have a couple of legislation that have been put in place in recent times. None of these legislations have been implemented. So if I tell you that, we need to pass laws, we already have laws. The problem is not laws. In fact, if you look at the new Police Act of 2020, it was actually designed with the primary objective being respect for the rights of Nigerians. But what has changed? So that is why I'm saying that this is not about putting laws in place. And I say that very seriously as a lawyer. It is not about law. The laws today are designed to protect Nigerians, including the Police Act, which has outlawed the arrest in proxy, as was also outlawed by the ACJ. It has also outlawed arresting people for civil matters. So none of these have been implemented. So it is not a legislative problem. This is clear lack of political will. So when you ask me what can be done, what can change, what we need is political leadership, the political will to reform the police. And I have explained to you that those that have the power, those that have the capacity, those that have the constitutional authority to effect changes, they are very comfortable with the police being the way it is. Because the police currently, as far as they are concerned, is achieving the agenda for which they have designed it for. Right? So if you want to reform the police to be a law enforcement agency, you'll be assuming that those that have the capacity to effect that change want Nigeria to be a law-abiding country, and that is not what they want.
In the last 4 years, we've had pockets of protests and violence, and we also had some major ones along the lines, where even some persons died in the process. What are the implications long-term if we do not address not just the issue of police brutality, but some of the challenges that are bringing back this protest, you know, in batches in the past year?
People will resort to self-help. We are already there. I believe those of you in the media, you would have followed recent increase in the extrajudicial killing and citizens basically taking jungle justice, taking laws into their hand. Indeed, even the IG of police, I think 2 days ago, came out to condemn the spate of jungle justice in the country. So people have lost faith in the police. When people cannot trust the police, that harm done to them will be redressed. When Nigerians cannot trust the police to investigate crimes, when Nigerians cannot trust the police to act professionally or to respect human rights, they will begin to take laws into their hands. And that is exactly where we are. The reason why non-state actors have become so emboldened in the southeast, in the northeast, and the north central, and other parts of the country is partly because our law enforcement institutions have basically failed to discharge the responsibility imposed on them by law. So Nigerians are now beginning to look for extrajudicial means or extra-legal means to address their problems, since people don't really have a lot of trust in the police. The police, to a large extent, have been weaponized. That is why we must continue to fight and insist on reform. That is why we must continue to expose policemen and police officers and people in political positions who have bastardized the police institution, and ensure that we find a way to ensure that things will not just remain the same. So I'm not just simply telling you that nothing can change. Of course, something can change if Nigerians continue to demand changes. And that is why when people are protesting, we have a responsibility to protect them. We have a responsibility to defend them, because it is only through citizens expressing their disaffection with government through protest and other democratic mode of civic engagement that those who claim to be leaders in our country will even pretend to listen to what they are saying.
Yeah, I do get the point. I think at the heart of your submission today is we need the political will. It's not a lack of law or a lack of, guidance that is required. Thank you for speaking with us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.